After watching it, I was like, damn, this is a really really good modern era coming of age story for little girls.
Yep.
And I was like, man, they should have marketed the way they did like Stand By Me.
Yes.
You remember that movie?
Yes.
And it's the old school, it was like set in the 50s, but it was in the 80s, something like that.
Yep.
And it was the same thing, just with little girls, and just the stuff they go through today, especially with social media and posting pictures and growing up fast and stuff. And I was just like, man, I never want to be a little girl, because that's
it's fucking terrible, right?
It's confusing as fuck.
Yeah.
It's confusing, and you don't know anything, and no one tells you anything. I mean, for her, like, no one was telling her shit about anything, and
nothing.
Yeah, like you said, it starts out with her very hyper religious family, and just from, because I think we look at it through an American lens, and over there, I don't know how French immigrants from Singali are, like, I don't know how that culture is at all, but I have to look at it through, like, the American way or whatever. It seems super oppressive, like, whatever thing that they were, because they were teaching, like, you have to obey your husband, you have to do whatever they say, you have to do this. It starts off with, like, the main problem is her mom. So basically, her mom is struggling with the fact that, I guess, whatever religion they're part of, because it was never, unless if they said it, I wasn't paying attention. The husbands can get more than one wife, so they could do that, and she's struggling with the whole, like, my husband has brought a new wife, and she has to be happy about it, because everyone's like, you gotta call people and let them know first before they start talking behind your back,
right?
And you see her struggling with it, and I mean, this is gonna be full of spoilers, so if you don't want to, like, watch it first,
But if you're not gonna watch it, then hear us.
As far as, like, everything you've heard so far is mainly to counteract the fucking Twitter fucking shit of it.
Such a mess.
So she doesn't really know what's going on. The little girl, she's a loner. She has no friends.
Right, because she's new. She's like in a new fucking country.
Yeah. And you know, like, fucking, and poor. If you've ever been poor, like, you just have, like, oversized sweaters and whatever dirty clothes you have, you just kind of wear it all the time. Yep. And at one point in the movie, she has, like, her shirt twisted up for the first time, like trying shit out. And then her mom, and they call her auntie, but I'm guessing it's not. It's like a what is it, like?
She's like a mother figure for their community.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best way.
Yeah, so she's hiding under the bed, and then she's hearing her mom call, but, like, in between the call, like, she's just fucking crying, and she starts crying, and I was just like,
such a good scene.
Yeah, and they don't explain it to her.
Strong.
Yeah, I know, and they this is the thing, they don't explain anything to her what's going on, and she's confused as fuck. She's, because I think that was the start of her rejecting, like, all that shit for the religion. She was just like, this thing is hurting my mom and putting my mom through, like, all this crap, so I'm gonna reject that shit. She just happens to make friends with some, would you say, popular girls, or for that grade?
They're like, they were, how old, what grade are you when you're 11? Like 6th, right?
Yeah, something like that.
5th, 6th grade?
Yeah.
5th or 6th grade, like, please keep that in mind. But everything Mark is saying is right, and, like, you know, she's literally hiding under the bed, listening to her mom call her most important family members and friends to say, my husband's gonna get remarried, and, you know, with a smile, and she hangs up, and it's bawling, fucking crying. And to be a kid where you have that closeness, right, because she was always going to pray with her mom, and so, like, there's that closeness there. But then to have to see your mom hurting, like, of course you'd be fucking angry. So I think for sure I can see that being that turning point of, like, why am I doing this? But what gets her to see one of the popular girls lives where she's living.
Yeah, they're in the laundry room, yeah.
And this little girl is listening to, like, reggaeton or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of Spanish music.
And she's dancing, and, you know, she just catches her eye, but it's something that piques her. And this is also something brand fucking new, where you're like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. Like, we're not taught that we can do this. Because
it goes from her being in that the prayer circle place, where everyone's, like, super covered up, you know, head wraps, and I don't know what they're called, but Habibs or... What are they called?
I think they each have different names.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna go general, just the thing that they wrap their head with.
Yes.
They go from that, and then immediately she goes to the laundry room, and the little girl is like, tight pants, little ass
like
shirt,
pants,
like
crop tops.
Yeah, and she's like dancing like super free. So it was like the contrast of like, oh shit, like this is brand new, and like, whoa, what is this crap? And this has never been explained to me. What is this? And then from there, where does it go?
So she finds out that these girls, like this girl's in her school, and she's part of this group, and they have kind of like a dance team, right? And they're the premise that everybody has seen is maybe like a sliver of what's going on, but essentially there's a dance competition that these young girls want to win. So what they end up doing, and this is the part that they don't show you in the fucking previews, is that they're trying to win going off of last year's winners, which are older girls in crop tops doing the same shit that these little girls are doing. So they're like, this is what won, this is what we need to do. And I don't think any kid at any age is ever like, I'm 11, I can't do this. They're like, I'm 11, I'm a big kid.
Yeah.
So they have this team, and they start off bullying her because she's the new girl who's in hand-me-downs, whose hair is a mess, who doesn't quite fit in. And she keeps pushing, like she's persistent. She wants to work her way in there, and she does eventually. And kind of takes them for a loop in a way. Like when they started...
Yeah, because...
Oh, but she had to work for that.
Yeah, she had to work for a little bit, but then when she comes in with her dance moves, because she steals a phone from her, like, cousin or something.
She stole a phone from somebody who was helping to move.
Yeah, helping to move, and then she's able to look up all these videos that I guess those little girls don't have access to.
Right.
So she...
And that was also the start of her social media stuff. Like, she just stole a phone. And so now she has access, right? And I think that's also something that wasn't really mentioned in the previews, is like how social media impacts not just the youth, but like young girls. And I'm gonna be specific about that because it is very different, I'm sure, than being a young boy. But what it's like when you're a young girl who you haven't hit puberty, your fucking boobs haven't come out of you yet, like you haven't gotten your period, but all you see on social media, it doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, is all of these women with massive boobs and a fat ass and minimal clothing. And they're the ones getting the likes, and they're the ones influencing, and they're the ones doing all this shit that keeps us on social media, essentially. So this 11-year-old girl who's never had a phone gets a phone, and she's like, holy shit, filters. Oh, I can take a selfie. Oh, let me look at this. And it's so, like, I was like, yeah, I'd be doing the same shit. Like, if I just got a phone, I'd do it having had a phone for years.
And you don't know anything about, like, that this is wrong, this is right, this is how you're supposed to do it, this is how what not to do. There's even one point where she's, like, in that prayer circle, and they're all leaving, and she's checking all the girls out, all the women out that are leaving. She's, like, looking at their ass, and, like, she's like, is that how it's supposed to, like, a woman's body's supposed to look? Like, and it was funny because, like, they were all different shapes, like, all different shapes and sizes, which is confusing as fuck, too. So it's just, like, which one's the right one that I'm supposed to copy? And then what happens?
So she essentially steals his phone. She's looking up all these dances, and that's when she starts kind of becoming a bit more sexualized in her stuff. So she comes back to this group of girls and goes... like, I want to join. So she's trying to prove herself to get in. So she not only, like, memorizes their dance, but adds to it. And she, adds to it in the way that she knows they'd appreciate, because it's going to boost them up, comparatively speaking, to the people who won last year, right? The women who won last year. So it just gets crazy.
Yeah,
like, it's all this coming of age shit, and that's why we're so, like, I feel like scattered with it, because there's so many bits and pieces that fly into what it's like to be this 11-year-old who's just trying to assimilate into something that you just have
culture,
no
society.
idea about. Yes.
And it's confusing too, because it always goes from the extremes of what she's doing with those little girls, the extreme, like, free and dance moves, all these, like, freaky dance moves and shit. And then it cuts back to her being at home with, like, again, hyper-religious people dealing with all that crap. And that auntie is just fucking with her head, because she tells the story of how when she was she was first married. She was presented to like the man, which I guess she never met, in like this all white dress, and she like lifts up the dress, and then the guy like introduces to everyone, I guess.
Oh, I don't remember.
And basically, she was just like toted around like an item for this dude when she was 11 or something.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that shit like in her head of like, you gotta obey all this no matter what, which again I think fucks her up on the other side, which is why she let the little girls manipulate her so well.
Right.
Because that's her home life. Like you just listen to the person that's, I guess, most confident, most most authority figure, which is that little girl with glasses.
Yes.
Right. And go. You wanna go?
Yeah, it was intense. It was really beautifully done. But like, all of the little girls were some of the best fucking actors I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah, those were little kids right there. That's how little kids act.
It's fucking good. Like, the acting that these girls put on was just A1. Like, I was just like, I don't know how you got there. I don't know how you... Like, I was sitting there crying when she was under the bed crying. Like, it was intense. And I'm like, I don't... You know, you can differentiate a movie star kid from somebody that's in it. So they all did a great fucking job. And yeah, I mean, the whole premise of it is this dance competition and the assimilation and the coming of age point of it too. But yeah, I thought it was great. I like that they put in the social media aspect because I wasn't too sure if that was really a part of her upbringing or if it was an addition. If it was an addition, it's a great fucking addition because it's very real. And I was there was, I was talking to whoever about it, and I was like, I remember, like, I started dancing when I was like 5 or 6, and I did ballet and jazz, and yeah, I think that was it. And so then for my summer camps, I'd go to a different school, and I was on the dance team there. And so, I'm watching these little girls. Before I go forward, the dance scenes, there's maybe 2, 3 max.
Yeah.
That are very intense, and they're extended, and they're shot in a very specific way. It didn't feel like I'm gonna do this for the fucking pedophiles. It felt like I need you to see how fucking gross it is to watch little kids doing this.
Yeah.
And it was super important for me because I had a moment where I was like really uncomfortable, and I was like, I just don't want to, like, it's hard to watch somebody for like 2 minutes.
The one that was the most uncomfortable with me was when she started teaching them those like twerk moves.
Yeah.
And she was just
whole,
like,
yes,
that finger in like
the finger in the mouth. Like, it's
ugh.
so cringy. It's so fucking cringy. So like, I absolutely acknowledge that. And the reason I want to be clear about that is that that's not the whole movie. There's maybe, if you put the minutes together, it's like 5 minutes total of the movie that you're sitting there cringing from the discomfort. But it's so specific. It's so meant. And going back to my point, I'm watching them and I'm like, this is fucking gross. Like, I have a kid. I'd fucking hate to see my kid up on stage like that. Right? Or anywhere just dancing like that. Then I was like, bitch, that was fucking you at 8 years old. Like on stage performing for a sea of adults in an auditorium that are clapping and cheering me on as I'm doing the same shit that they're doing. And when you're young, you're like, oh, you like the dance. Like, I'm not thinking,
no one's,
whatever this means. Like, I'm not like, oh, I got the pedophiles hard. Like, I'm like, oh, you like that I can dance. Okay, great. And I'm like, I see that in that story where I'm like, they want this competition. This means something to them. And that's how I would feel. Like, it meant a lot. I wanted to always do good. I always, like, fucking would go home and practice. And that's sex fucking sells. Like, our whole world revolves around sex. So when I'm watching it, I was like, it's so cringy. And then I had to sit back and take in the fact that I participated in that. And nobody told me it wasn't okay because it was so normalized. Like, we forget that we have access to everybody's goddamn fucking opinions now, so you can't do that and not have people backlash. And I'm glad, right? Because it's fucking inappropriate and it's gross. And in the movie, there's a couple scenes where, you see her using it like with the security guards where she's like
she learns how to use her body to get like her way.
And it's a scene where I guess the girls are somewhere they shouldn't be.
They sneak into a laser tag place and they're not supposed to be there or something.
Right, they get caught, they get kicked out. They're trying to get out of trouble because the next step was like, let me call your parents or something like that. And she just starts dancing. And they let her go, which is
because the security guy looks at her like up and down, like the camera goes to his point of view and it's like looking her up and down, and he's like, he has his face of like, oh, okay.
Yes, he was so into it. And it's once again, it's so real. And I think that's the part that we forget. Like, we forget that this is a reality, that this is a lot of people's realities. This is what dancers, do. Hip-hop is a style of dance, which of course gets fucking criminalized because black people, right? Like, nobody's mad at these little girls in pink ballet nude tights just showing their ass and doing splits. That's fine and modern and pretty and shit. But it's a reality, and we forget that, yes, little girls are hyper fucking sexualized. I don't wear shorts. I'm fucking grown as shit, and I don't wear shorts outside. I'm like, I don't want to be seen. It's gross.
It's that, and then there's also the fact that there was never a scene where they were like taught, like, hey, this happens if you do this. This is what happens if you don't do this. Whatever. Right. They're just learning this shit. It was just like, oh, I just start dancing. Like, look, I'm a dancer, like you, whatever. And then they get out of trouble. They get sort of like quote unquote a reward for doing this shit. And they're like, oh, it works. Okay, let me just And then they build on top of that because from there it gets more like a little more sexual after that, especially because I think before that scene she gets her period. Yeah. And I don't know what it's like for little girls with getting their first period. I'm sure it's confusing, but in the movie at least, the only thing they tell her, her mom tells her, she goes into the room and goes, I guess you're a woman now. And then just leaves. Does not explain shit at all, like what that actually means, Right. So from her, she just takes it as like, okay, I'm a woman now. It means I'm an adult. Right. That's when she goes to school the next day and like in her tight leather and her whatever, and she gets all this attention from all of these people.
It's like her Sandy moment.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is, but for an 11-year-old.
Yes. And you're right. And it's funny because I feel like the disconnect is also. Do you want me to hold it?
No, it's okay. Sorry.
The disconnect is also the fact that I'm assuming I gotta look up how old this director was, but it's not today. Like, she was not 11 now, right? This is, I want to say, 20 years ago. I don't know how old she is. But it was very different. Like, yes, I'm sure moms now go to their daughters and are like, hey, this is what this means. Here's what happens. But we can't forget the time where it's like, if you're being raped, just yell fire, because that's what people are going to respond to. Because that's what the fuck I grew up on. Nobody was like, hey, people are going to come rescue you if you're being raped. Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody believes you. So people forget that, like, we weren't always in this age, in this era of, we have social media, we have Google, we can look up things. And
before the Me Too movement and believe every woman.
Absolutely. Kind of thing. And that, like, these movements got us here, but that wasn't always the case. It absolutely was not the case. I didn't get along talking to my mom. Wasn't an asshole about it, but she was just like, yeah, it's your period, sometimes it hurts. And I'm sitting there at 12 like, I'm fucking dying. I've never felt pain like this before. But what else could she tell me? Like, because what did her mom tell her? And what did her mom... Like, you just pass down what you know. And so I feel like that's the disconnect, and why everybody's so fucking angry is that they can't get out of, like, well, you can't be doing this now. We can't be... And it's like, but this is real. Right. This is fucking real. And the whole, like, this is for the pedophiles, it infuriates me because... I'm like, what makes you think they're not just gonna Google what they want to see? Yeah. Like, I don't think this was that, and that's why it frustrated me at Netflix for being so fucking stupid with their marketing. Whoever okayed this is a piece of shit. It feels super targeted. And the fact that you had this opportunity to highlight this black female director and put on the spotlight the reality of a lot of little girls, even in this day and age, and you did this with it, and you took away from it. And then you have all these fuck-ass little trolls who refuse to read a full article about what the movie's about, to go take this off Netflix, boycott, and you have no idea what you're saying because you haven't watched it, because all you do, as Dave Chappelle said, is go to Twitter to figure out how you're feeling. And you all don't realize that you're doing exactly what you're mad at these little girls for doing, which is going online and trying to be what everybody else is. Yeah. And you do that.
No knowledge, no nothing, just going on base instinct, which is, exactly what they're doing.
Not even asking a question about it. Oh, it's about that? It's about girls twerking? Fuck that. But it's not.
It's so funny, too, because we always talk on this show about cherry picking when it comes to, like, canceling and boycotting, because where's the outrage for the beauty pageants? The little girl beauty pageants.
What about fucking dance moms with these fucking psychotic moms that are pushing their daughters past their brim at such a young age?
Let's make that reality show, that dance mom reality show, and make it one of the top shows ever.
Right, and we can't talk about one without the other, so we're going to intersectionality this shit up. They're black. Yep. It's about a young black girl. So, of course, there's an issue there, because nobody fucking has an issue, and I've said this to you before, with mid-90s, when this little boy is like, I fingered her and she was so wet, and everybody in the theater was like, yes, fucking go. But nobody says anything, when it comes to little girls, because nobody's looking out. You all rather just, nope, I don't want to see it, I don't want to engage, I don't want to participate. And all you're doing is going, let that shit keep happening, because I don't want to deal with it. And you're not, Booksmart was another one. There's tons of coming-of-age movies that don't get this backlash, and it makes you think, what other reason could it be aside from the fact that she's a black woman? And, Netflix is a fucking piece of shit right now. Fuck you guys.
For real. It was really dumb on their part.